Is the TikTok ban going to happen? And should we even care? Let's unpack that today through a variety of articles and talk through the potential political rhetoric that surrounds this news story that could just be a bunch of propaganda. Let's first start with the basics. First of all, we know that the US Senate has approved the sell off, the House has approved it, and now it has come across Joe Biden's desk and he has signed off on it. Now, what does that exactly mean? It doesn't mean that the app itself is getting banned. It means through this bill that they are providing 270 days to TikTok's owner ByteDance to sell the app away from any Chinese control whatsoever, which you're going to find out is none. There is no Chinese control with this app. In fact, only 20% of the app itself is owned by the original owners who are Chinese people. However, the company itself is not Chinese and is not controlled by the Chinese government. So as I mentioned, the bill says that we have 270 days. TikTok has 270 days to sell this, and there is a 90-day extension. Ironically, the date for which this sale needs to be completed by is January 19th. So think about that. January 19th, 2025. This is an election year. There's going to be possibly a new president elected in November, and the new president takes office January 20th. The deadline is January 19th. That's interesting. I don't fully understand why they would set that up. Because here's my take on this, and I'm by no means a political expert. In fact, if you know me, you know that I despise politics. I do not claim a party. I do not take a side. I do vote. I will vote for the best candidate that I feel will have the most positive effects on my family, because that's all that I can really control. And so when you really think about the current administration, which is a Democratic administration, which tends to attract an inner city demographic of voter, it tends to attract. It's considered liberal. I would say the Democratic Party, by and large, historically has attracted a younger vote. So this is a precarious move by a Democratic side, where you would believe that the majority of the backers of an app like TikTok are in fact pro TikTok. So I would think this would actually be detrimental to the vote for that party. Now, when you think about who might be against the app, it's typically more of a conservative voter who isn't digging into the facts and is simply looking at it and assuming that it's Chinese based. They look at China as an enemy, and they want nothing to do with it. But that conservative voter is not going to be swayed to vote for Joe Biden versus voting for, let's say, a Donald Trump just because they banned TikTok. So that whole part of it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I'm not understanding the strategy here, although it is interesting, and I will share this video at the end, that RFK is actually claiming he is going to sue to keep TikTok because it violates our rights as U.S. citizens. So it's really interesting political rhetoric all going around here. I'm not sure if this isn't just a bunch of propaganda, because if you will remember, this is now the fourth time that they've threatened to ban TikTok. The first three just kind of faded into the sunset. Now, this is the farthest it's made it along. But I feel like there's always been some sort of intent behind it from a propaganda standpoint. And I've never really been able to figure it out because, again, it just fades into the sunset each time. Now, I do think it's important to know some of the facts around this. So, as I mentioned, the dates with the potential ban. Now, I think it also is important to know who actually owns the parent company of TikTok, which is called ByteDance. It was founded by Chinese entrepreneurs, but it's a privately held global company. Roughly 60% is actually owned by global institutional investors. And some of these you might even recognize. BlackRock, a very, very well-known company that is, if it was an economy, would be the third largest economy in the world next to the US and China. It's owned by General Atlantic and a company called Susquehanna International Group. 20%, as I've mentioned, is owned by the Chinese entrepreneurs who founded it, and 20% is actually owned by its employees, which includes over 7,000 Americans. So to say this wouldn't have an impact on the United States is frankly just wrong. It would, and I would argue probably not for the positive, but it is important to understand who actually owns TikTok. Now, I will say that the richest article that I've read on this is probably this one, and what it kind of, we're just going to kind of peruse through this real quickly. I think it's important to just to know some of these facts for those of you that maybe are lean the conservative side and you're just anti-TikTok just simply because the word China is associated with it, which I frankly think that's why people are against it. TikTok has never operated in mainland China. In fact, it was actually originally founded in the US. And I don't think a lot of people actually realize that. It was incorporated in California in April of 2015. TikTok itself, the app, has never existed in mainland China. It was available in Hong Kong, but it was pulled shortly out after Beijing imposed a national security law. China actually has its own version of TikTok, which is called Douyin. It has nothing to do with TikTok. It's completely separate. Why? Because China wants to control it, and China doesn't control TikTok. And that's why TikTok is actually banned in China. This is important to know. TikTok is actually, it's headquartered in Los Angeles and Singapore. Los Angeles is in America. Singapore is not in China. So it's not even headquartered, has nothing to do with China. So again, very important to know. Obviously, this particular gentleman, Mr. Shao Chu, has had to step in front of Congress and defend all of these things that I'm basically sharing with you. I'm just kind of giving you the overview. But I think it's important, again, to know that this app is, I would argue, far more safe than many of the apps that many of us use on a daily basis that might be owned by an American company. But just because it's American owned doesn't mean they have positive intent. And the information that you're actually sharing through many of the apps that you use with American companies, and one of those name companies that I believe is one of the big reasons behind all of this is Meta. And I'm a user of both. I love TikTok, I love Facebook, I love Instagram, I love all of them. But the truth is, a lot of this is probably got undertones of the threat that TikTok has had to the Meta apps, which are Facebook and Instagram, which when you really dig a little bit deeper is kind of scary to think that a company can have that much impact on basically destroying a competitor, which, as we all know, ultimately and effectively creates a monopoly, and that monopolies are not good for any economy. As I continue with this, again, I've already mentioned this, the Chinese government does not own or control ByteDance. It never has. There is separation between the two. And ultimately, I think that is what has caused a lot of the angst between Americans, because there is that concern that the Chinese can manipulate or have access to the data. And I have a couple thoughts on that. First of all, our country has done a lot of digging, and many countries have done a lot of digging about this to determine whether or not China does in fact and can access data within the app of TikTok. and no one has been able to find anything that displays that in fact is the truth. And you know damn well that they have been digging. But in addition to that, you know, when you really think about what is it that we're so afraid of, and I think about it from my own personal perspective as a TikTok user, as someone who TikTok has actually had a profound impact on my career because of the growth that I've had. Now, I've since multiplied my efforts onto the other apps because, you know, I don't want to be caught with my pants down if TikTok does get banned. However, what am I really afraid of? What are we really afraid of? What are you putting in a social media app data wise that makes you feel threatened or any more threatened than any other app that you put information into? You're not giving it your social security number. You're not giving it any information that, frankly, the Chinese government could do anything with. In fact, I would argue if they actually are perusing through the data of Americans on TikTok, all that's doing is shifting their priorities and shifting their viewpoint on what's probably most important. If in fact there was security threats, there is no threat here. That's the reality. We all know that our government has banned TikTok on government devices. That might be the only potential threat, but it's not a threat because it's banned. So I'd love for somebody to make an argument of why I should actually be concerned, why me sharing the lifestyle around the Lake of the Ozarks is a national security threat to anybody in this country. I mean, that's a joke, and we all know it. So let me play this video for you. We'll wrap this video up. I think this is fascinating. It does give another feather in the cap to RFK, in my opinion. If he did, in fact, win candidacy for either party, I would probably vote for him. And if he does run, he might be, it shows how much I pay attention to politics. I will be voting for him just simply based on these types of things, because this is the way we should be thinking about it. So let me play this video for you.
He said, I'm going to file a lawsuit challenging the TikTok ban on constitutional grounds. Don't be fooled. The TikTok ban is not about China harvesting your data. That's a smokescreen. Intelligence agencies from lots of countries, especially ours, are harvesting your data from everywhere all the time. TikTok isn't even majority Chinese owned, and the company agreed to put its data behind a U.S. firewall, but the Biden administration rejected that deal. Congress and the administration don't understand that TikTok is an entrepreneurial platform for thousands of American young people. They want to screw them over just so they can pretend to be tough on China. The TikTok ban is yet another example of how neither political party has any compunctions about sacrificing your freedoms, rights, and choices when it comes to their political interests. So do you think this is going to get RFK Jr.?
So in summary, I think many of us, I know many people of my generation and younger probably have a similar political view as I do, which is that we just don't care much for politics. It has gone down a nasty path, especially over the last few elections. And you know, I don't wear a badge on my sleeve as to which party I support. I really don't support either one. At the end of the day, what I support is what is going to have the biggest effect, most positive effect on my family. And I feel like that should be something that we all take seriously versus blindly supporting a party that frankly doesn't really give a rat's ass about any of us as individuals. And so that's the depth of how I will go. I will talk about politics. Ultimately, this is about the TikTok ban. Does it really even matter? Should it matter to you? My last take on that is simply this: as someone who does have a large audience on TikTok, if you are in the same camp as me, you should have already been broadening your content. You should have already basically multiplied it to the other platforms, which I've done. YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we have a Facebook group, and we're on X. And you should do the same if you haven't done it already. If TikTok is not a big part of your content strategy, this really has very little impact on you. However, I will say this: Don't take your eye off the ball. Don't do what most people will do and say, well, TikTok's getting banned, so I'm going to leave it, because there actually might be a hell of a lot of opportunity that will exist in the short term between now and January 19th of 2025, where the TikTok algorithm might actually broaden and open up as a way, as a strategic move to get content creators even more boisterous and loud about saving the TikTok app in this country. Also, if you do gain an audience between now and January 19th, you are going to have that opportunity if it does get banned. And I do believe January 19th is not D-Day. I do believe this will get extended. I do believe there is a very good chance it could get banned, but I don't think it'll be then. I think it'll get extended. But then you'll have that opportunity to take some of the audience that you've earned on TikTok and then migrate them over, because that's exactly what I will do. If TikTok does in fact get banned, guess what? I will be creating a lot of content to my loyal followers to say, it doesn't stop here. All you have to do is shift over to YouTube. All you have to do is shift over to Instagram or Facebook, and you should do the exact same. So this isn't the end all. If TikTok or any other social media app does go away tomorrow, it's not the end of the world. We will move on to something different, and we'll forget about it in a few months. And the last thought I will give is, don't sleep on X. Don't sleep on what Elon is doing. And if you do pay attention to what Elon is saying, you'll know that he's already hinting about bringing back Vine. If he does, you as an entrepreneur, you as a business owner need to jump into Vine very quickly, figure out how to put out content if they do in fact bring back the 7-second video, because the person that is creative and understands how to create profound content in 7 seconds will be the creator and the business owner that wins. Good luck. Keep your head on a swivel. And no matter what happens with the social media landscape, currently it is the best place to market your business organically. It provides you the greatest reach. And you need to be quick to adopt to all of the things that continue to change and happen in social media. Go get it.